Hello to all of you. Good morning. This class is about verbs. It is about verbs and the generalities of verbs. Verbs is an important topic and it is quite long. You have a lot of information on your platforms that I hope you will download and keep it for this year and next. Okay, the verbs in a sentence provide the focal point of a clause. Yes, you have before the verb, you have the subject, and after the verb, you have the predicate. And they form a meaning relationship among these elements, among the different elements in the sentence. You have main verbs and auxiliary verbs. The main verbs play a central role because, as I said before, they occur in the middle of the sentence, and depending on what you can put before them and after, you are going to have what we call a valency pattern. For example, a clause with the verb go or went cannot take a direct object, but it can take an adverbial. So here you have, he goes to church every Sunday, and the children went into the abandoned house, and there you have them followed by an adverbial. In contrast, a clause with the verb give can take both a direct and an indirect object. I could give him a message, and here you have him as the indirect object and a message as the direct object. And in the other example, they gave Joan a bunch of flowers when the play finished, and here you have Joan is the indirect object and a bunch of flowers is the direct object. Okay, we have lexical verbs that are used only as main verbs. Most of these verbs have regular endings to form the past and the past participle. But the verbs that we use every day have an irregular ending. Most of the verbs that we use every day have an irregular ending. So there you have to study the past and the past participle of these irregular verbs. Lexical verbs are much more common than primary or modal verbs, especially in conversation and fiction. Here you have, yesterday we went to town and saw the film, and there you have two verbs that are irregular. You have the boys played in the garden and swam in the pool, and played is regular and swam is irregular. Then you have Kate turned off the music and listened to the noise outside. There you have verbs that have a preposition afterwards, turned off and listened to, and those are multi-word verbs. They can be followed by a preposition or by a preposition and an adverb. And so there you have 3 words. The primary verbs are 3 in English, and they are very important. They are be, have, and do. They are the most common verbs in English. They form a separate class because they can function as a main verb and as an auxiliary. When the verb be is used as a main verb, we call it the linking verb because it links the subject with the verb. It is also called copular. Many verb functions and auxiliaries verb function together. For example, he does the washing every weekend is a main verb. And he doesn't like Mary, there you have the verb do used as an auxiliary. My dad was an engineer, and there the verb to be is a main verb. And she was wearing a long grey raincoat, and that is the past continuous. Each child has a bicycle. There we are using have as a verb of possession. It is a main verb, and he has gone away for the weekend, and there we are using it as an auxiliary to form the present perfect. Okay, the variation in the verb phrase. And here you have non-finite and finite verb phrases. The verb phrases can be non-finite or finite depending on whether they are marked for mood, aspect, tense, and voice. Finite verbs are the ones that we usually use, and non-finite forms are the base infinitive, which we are always going to use after a preposition, after a modal, the infinitive with to, which is used after certain verbs and in certain structures, and then you have the ing form and the ed participle, which also can be used to form different structures. For example, I can go whenever you want, and they will come if you ask them, and there you have two modals followed by a base infinitive. To smoke a lot is very harmful, and there you have to smoke is a to infinitive. I want to know what is going on, and there you have to know followed the verb want followed by to know. Before leaving, and here we have the ing, which you're always going to use after a preposition. So before leaving, Katie said to her hostess. And then you have I found him working, and having been offended, he was very sensitive, and those are functioning as adverbials. There are four main kinds of variation in the verb phrase when using finite verbs. You have tense, aspect, mood, and voice, or voice and mood. The variations in the verb phrase are related to many differences in meanings. They always depend on context, because you can use the same tense, the same verb tense with different meanings. And the same meaning can be expressed by more than one form. The complex relationship between form and meaning is easy to see by contrasting verb tense and time meaning. For example, he goes there a lot is the habitual present. I just wanted a small one, and he goes and makes a bigger one also. This is called a historic present. It is something that happened in the past, but you are talking about a personal experience, and so there we are going to use the present simple. My dad goes into hospital tomorrow for an operation, and here we are talking about the future, because you have a time, a special time. You can use the present simple for the future with a special time. You have tense. In English, finite verb phrases can be marked for only two tenses, present and past. Other main verb phrases may include a modal verb. However, these two options cannot occur together, and finite verb phrases either has a modal or is marked for tense, but not both. Simple present tense. This tense often refers to the present time. It can describe a state that exists at the present time, a habitual action, an action that is happening at the moment. It can also be used to refer to past events, when here it is what we call the historic present, which is the example I gave you before. And it can be used for future events also. For example, she is a vegetarian, but she eats chicken is something that happens all the time. He always dances and moves about a lot, also refers to the present time. And then the fortune teller goes and says, and there we have a historic present. They leave for Canada at the end of the month, and there we have a verb of movement with a time, and so we use the present simple. The simple past tense. This tense is most often used to refer to past time in fictional narrative and descriptions. It is used for situations that started and finished in the past. It describes past states and events. It is sometimes used for a situation in the present and gives information about stance. Here it means that you want to be polite, or you want to thank someone, and so there you can use a modal to say it. It shows that the speaker is being polite, and it is usually used with verbs like think, wonder, and want. He turned and walked away, and she watched him go with a heavy heart. Those are all verbs in the past. The man was tall and heavy-set. He had white hair and wore a long overcoat. that is also in the past, and there you have verbs that are irregular. I wanted to thank you all for coming, and there you are talking in the present, but you are using the past tense because you want to be polite. The simple past has a special use in reported speech or thought. Even though the original speech may have been in the present, the reporting verb is generally used in the past. Liz said she wouldn't be there for the meeting, and he told her he no longer loved her. The future. The future in English, we have no way to mark the future in English. The verbs cannot be inflected as they are for the present and the past, and the future is generally marked with a modal as will when you are making a prediction about the future, or a semi-modal with going to when you have a plan or intention, and if the present continuous is used for actions that are already programmed and planned. You can use the present simple also, as I said, with verbs of movement or indicating timetables. As you have in the examples, I will call him tomorrow is something that you plan to do, that you are going to do. James will be a rich man if he continues to work hard, and there you are making a prediction. I'm going to change my car sometime soon, and there you have a plan or intention. You don't know whether it is going to happen or not, but it is a plan. It was in the summer and I was going to start a summer course, so we came home. There you have the future seen from the past. It was in the summer and I was going to start. There you have the future seen from the past. I was going to call you last night, but I fell asleep, and there you had a plan also for the future, but it didn't happen. We are playing football on Saturday afternoon. That is something that is already programmed. We have a test next Wednesday, and here we have the present simple for the future with a timetable. And the next one, the plane leaves at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, is also something that is in the future with a timetable. You have aspect. Aspect adds time meanings to those expressed by tense. It answers to the question, has the action finished or is it continuing? And here you have the perfect and progressive tenses. The progressive also called continuous. The perfect aspect always describes events or places or states that took place in the past and continue, and the progressive indicates an event or state that is happening at the moment or around this time. Both aspects can be combined with either the present or the past tense. And you have the perfect aspect we have written many times, but no one has answered. And in the past you have, I had never seen him before. You have the progressive or continuous aspect in the present. James is wearing shorts and a t-shirt at the moment. And in the past, I was studying yesterday morning, and this tense is used for things that happened at a specific moment in the past. Mood relates a verb and action to such conditions as certainty, obligation, necessity, and possibility. There are only 9 modals, but they are sometimes complicated because you can use them in a lot of different situations. The categories of tense, aspect, and mood are closely bound together. It is difficult to consider the expressions of time, past and present and future, without considering aspect. The expressions of mood is closely bound up with the future also. So mood involves the indicative, the subjunctive, and the imperative. Mood is expressed in English to a small extent by the subjunctive in so be it then. And then you have to a much greater extent by past forms, as in if you taught me I would learn quickly, and it is strange that he should have left so early, and there you are giving your personal opinions.